So, hi Matthew.
Hello, good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
joining us here in Abu Dhabi. So tell me a little bit about you and your background and how you got started building MarkSetBot and like all the other businesses that you've got going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of a long story, but I'll keep it as short as I can. I know we don't have a lot of time, but an interesting fact is that every business that I've been involved in, I've done along with my brother Kevin. So we work really closely together. Our very first thing was we started an IT company when we were kids, literally building computers in the garage and in our parents' basement. So really, we got started very young, and everything we've done, we've kind of built on top of that. So since then, we've owned a restaurant, we own a co-working space, we have a robotic buoy company of all things. So it's a kind of a weird journey, but the restaurant was actually enabler. That was our first exit. So we owned a restaurant for about 6 years, and this is in Detroit in the States. And Detroit's a city that's had a lot of challenges through the years, and it's on a definite upswing now. But we figure we were probably the first restaurant in 60 years that sold and people actually made a profit. But that allowed us to buy the co-working space, and in that space we started building the buoys, and that's Robo Buoy, which MarkSetBot is just a brand of Robo Buoy, and that's why we're here in Abu Dhabi. Is because we're this is it's a boat show, and the Robo Buoy product. Is an autonomous buoy, and it's designed to solve all kinds of different marine problems. We started out in the sailing space, setting race courses, because when you're sailing, the wind, everything you set up is in relation to the wind. So having something that can both move and then stay in position is really important.
I love that. Family business.
Yeah.
What's it like working with your brother? Do you both bring different skill sets to the table from like a co-founding team perspective?
Yeah, I would say so. Our dad works for us as well, so it's easier to work with my brother than my dad. I will say that. There's just that dynamic of growing up with him being the boss, and now we're the bosses. So that's interesting. But there are times where I'm on a call and I just kind of like I'm so lucky that I get to do this. And it's funny because my mom is actually at the co-working space. She comes and takes care of our plants. We call her our chief horticulture officer. So it's so that like all of what we do is family related, and so yeah, I mean, for Kevin and I, he's definitely deeper from an engineering standpoint, but we both have that kind of lean. It's just if we have a really complicated problem to solve, he's going to do that, and it's kind of vice versa on the business side. So. Coming to a show like this, he'll do it and he'll do a good job, but I'll do just a little bit better. So we can cover for each other when we need to, and honestly that's probably one of the best things about having a partner like that. Like, this is a part you don't choose your brothers, you get them forever. So but having someone that I can count on completely like that. And the only bad thing has been often we'll want to go on vacations together, and when our businesses were really small and we had no one else, we had to take like satellite phones so that people could reach us if they had problems, because we didn't have backup, and we both wanted to go and do things together.
Wow.
So yeah, but it is a blessing. There are good days and bad days, but it's absolutely a blessing to get
Yeah,
to
for
work with
sure.
a family like that.
For sure. And you mentioned that RoboBoy got started in the co-working.
Yeah.
So were you sailors, or how did you kind of initially figure out there was a problem there that kind of needed solving?
Yeah, well, there's sort of a funny story behind that. My dad got into sailing. We weren't sailing kids. We did a little bit maybe at camp and things like that, but we didn't grow up in that like many families do. They become sailing families, and the kids forever do that. But my dad is a swimmer, and he swam at like a local YMCA, and he found a sign on a bulletin board that said, "Do you enjoy being cold, tired, wet, and hungry?" And he ripped the little thing off and called the guy, and started sailing with this guy named Bill Margolin. And so Bill ended up teaching all of us to sail. So we got in as teenagers more so. So a lot of kids start at 3-4 years old even. So we started a little bit later, and we actually started in bigger boats and then moved into smaller boats, which we race more often now. When usually that's the opposite. People kind of grow up into the bigger boats. But yeah, it was one of the clubs that we raced at that had a major problem. It was mostly the water's maybe 3 meters deep almost everywhere, and then there's one part that's like 50 meters deep. And so when you're setting race courses, the traditional way is to have something that floats with an anchor on it. You throw that into the water, and then it holds its place. Well, you can imagine if most of the lake is 3 meters deep, you don't have enough line to set something where it's 50. And so that was actually the impetus and the idea behind it. We said, well, when the wind is blowing from over there, the racing is terrible because they can't put it where it's supposed to be. And so we're like, well, let's solve it. And that's, I mean, really from being kids even, it was like, well, you know, our friends are buying computers as they're going off to school. Why don't we just make them computers? So we've always had that kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. And because we were sailors, we really understood that problem in sailing. And now what we're trying to do is take that same technology into these other spaces like golf recreation. So water golf is a new concept that we're approaching with GolfShotBot. We have a naval bot, so we've been working with the military in a few different countries on different uses there, and even trying to solve some environmental problems as well. So when we start thinking of the bot as a platform, not just as a solution to one problem, we can solve all kinds of different things.
Yeah, very cool. I'm excited to see how it develops
Where it goes,
from here.
right?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of the partnerships that you've managed to secure as well, because they're very exciting. Some big players in the marine space. Yeah,
for sure. So in the sailing world, because we really made this market back in 2019 in the first season of Sail GP, which is, you know, they're wrapping up here in Abu Dhabi. The grand final is next weekend of the 5th season. And with COVID, everything's stretched a little bit longer because they were off for a little bit. But we've really been involved since the first season there. I think they just found us in a web search or something. A guy who's become a really good friend of ours, Tom Herbert Evans, he was running the youth program there, and they were trying to figure out a way to be able to get the kids onto the race course, because they're trying to build a next generation of sailors as well as, you know, having really high level world-class competition. And so what they were doing is having the kids race in between the big races of the F-50 boats. And they needed a way to get the course on and off. And again, you can't be throwing anchors and pulling up chains and stuff like that. And so they found us. We came to an event in New York. Everything worked great. And we've been working with them ever since. But we also work with the America's Cup. So we did the America's Cup in 2023 in Barcelona, which is, you know, another event. We're at the very top of the sport. Mm-hmm. We work with other great classes that people won't know in the same way, but like the TP52s, the 52 Super Series, the RC44s. We did the Pan Am Games in Chile in 2023. So because we made the market, you know, we've been in 40 countries. We have 65,000 days on the water. I mean, we've been all over, which sometimes means you're jet lagged for a good portion of your life, which I think you understand. But it's also we've gotten a chance to, you know, to meet the people at the highest levels of the sport, to be respected by them. It's pretty amazing stuff. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a blessing. Just like working with the family, it's pretty cool. Sometimes you step back and you're just like, wow.
Yeah, very cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
And yeah, that's the incredible thing about our industry, right? We get to travel the world, and it's just sometimes you do have to pinch yourself.
Yeah.
So are you bootstrapped in terms of the business?
We raised money. I think we closed around in 2022, and we've sort of started rebootstrapping. So we did in the States. There's something called Reg CF, which stands for Regulation Crowdfunding, but it's equity crowdfunding. You don't just give away T-shirts in exchange for investments. You're actually giving shares. And so we raised about $1 million at a $10 million valuation, and because the market has been, I would say, challenging from a startup standpoint, and because we have these other businesses, again, we're lucky. We've built some of our own luck, but we're lucky to be able to say, okay, well, we're going to work and really try to grow some of these other verticals to becoming extremely profitable, because it's always better to raise money when you have something out there that's already selling. So like when we were doing that in sailing, we already had a product that was all over the world. We were already working with Sail GP, and so we were able to raise money at a much higher valuation than when you go somewhere with an idea. Yeah. And so that's our strategy now. And we had one product, a partnership that ended up not working out, but that we were prepared to start raising for. We would have been probably talking about it even at the show here, but that's one that we're trying to see if that we may end up having to step away from it completely. But that's why we have more than one iron in the fire.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And just tell me a little bit about the hardest, or kind of maybe like a misconception that you had about launching a business in this space as a founder. Like any kind of, not words of warning, but advice for any founders that are maybe just getting started in their journey that you kind of wish you'd known in the space.
Yeah, I do think this is a space that I think blue tech, if you kind of, not just leisure marine, but if you think of blue tech as a whole, it's a space that is starting to draw a lot more attention than it used to, But in general, I think the cycles are longer, and I think you really need to be prepared for that. In some spaces, if you're doing some of that environmental stuff we were doing is kind of deep science stuff, and in many countries, definitely in the US, there are forms of non-dilutive funding. So one of the good things is see what's out there, look for that. Just a simple example, we're here in Abu Dhabi, and our state, Michigan, has they have an export for companies that export, do like more than 50% of their business in export. They have a budget that they set aside, and we have to apply for it, but they're covering half of the airfare, half of the lodging, half of the fee for being in the show, all of that. And so I think that's the other piece. One, your cycles might be a little longer than they'd be in other places, so plan accordingly, raise accordingly, and then look for those see what the government is willing to do for you, see what your state can do for you. And then if you're doing science, there's other forms of non-dilutive funding usually as well. So take advantage of that stuff when it's there, but don't think you have to go it alone. See what resources are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys are great at that in some ways, right? Like we found some of the we were in the Creative Destruction Lab, and the only reason we're in that is because in a newsletter you all wrote about Creative Destruction Lab, and we applied. So I think Yachting Ventures is a great resource because of that. It's a connector to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we do try and create connections between all these different worlds, commercial marine, blue economy, leisure marine, and we try and give the startups that are part of our community access to those opportunities just by raising the profile of them as well, right? Yeah. That's half the battle. We know how noisy the world is and how everyone's vying for your attention, so we try and cut through the noise and tell you what's important.
No, I mean, and I read your messages every week because of that, because it takes maybe 2 minutes, and there's almost always something in there where I'm like, oh, I'll at least consider it, whether I'm going to do that thing or not. I'll take a look at it. Yeah. So it's really, and so I guess that'd be another piece of advice, right? Like look for groups like this that can really help to help connect you to things that you wouldn't know about otherwise, because this is a hard thing to do, and so whatever help you can get, you gotta go get it.
Absolutely, you've got to be resourceful as a founder. For sure. And then just my final question, seeing as we're here in Abu Dhabi, how has your experience been of just like the general kind of appetite to innovation and tech here? And I know there's a big push for the future and AI-driven solutions and stuff out in Abu Dhabi and the UAE. But what's your kind of experience been as a founder being here and having the conversations on the show floor?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's been a great experience. I think that the rate of change here and the interest in new things and novel things it's higher than probably anywhere that I've been. And realize, still the vast majority of our business is sailing, which can be a very traditional kind of space, and a place where, people are always saying, well, I can go, I hurt my back last year, but I can just go and pull those anchors up, it's fine. And we say, but you hurt yourself last year. But I think a place like this, people are saying, yeah, we want to do it better. Let's find a way. We want to be on the forefront. And so if you're a company that is on the forefront, this is a really good place to be. And I've had some very good conversations, both with people from this area as well as people who have come here. So I met a guy who's from an area of Germany near Austria. I just met him this morning, and he makes they're an exhibitor here, Yacht Beach, and they have they make these flotational things that you can put around your boat, so you can have like a beach outside your boat when you're anchored somewhere. But they're using very similar technologies to what we do. And he said, I could probably help you make your bot. And I'm really interested in that golf usage, because so many of my customers are into, they want to hit golf balls and they don't have a target. So I can sell this to them. So people come to especially I think a show at a place like this with probably a more open mind than they go to other places. And so it's a breath of fresh air when you come outside of the when you come from such a traditional space. Sure. So that's great. And having said that, though, here in Abu Dhabi, they have the Dhow races, which is one of the most traditional forms of sailboat racing anywhere. But we actually talked with that group as well, the Abu Dhabi Marine Sport Group, and they put those races on, and they're saying, can we automate this? They have like 1,000 boats that are out there, and they'd love to make the starting line autonomous. Wow. And so I had conversations with groups like that. So even something super traditional, they're saying, hey, how can we do it better?
Amazing.
And that's exciting.
Right, you're coming back then for the start of those Dhow races?
I hope so. I mean, I don't think they'll let me race in it. I always wanted to, but I think you have to be a local. I think that's one of the requirements.
Oh, really?
So maybe I can sneak in.
Yeah. No, it's really great. And I think, you do have to be here. You do have to be on the ground in a place like this. a lot of it does happen over conversations, over coffee, and just being in the right place, really. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
And it's been really great getting to know you better and supporting you out here. So I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Yeah, and I'll say it again. I mean, I said it before, but thank you so much for all of the work that you do. And startup founders, it turns out, are not the easiest people to manage. So you heard the cats really well. You remind us all the time, hey, you've got a podcast. But by the way, I was going to be on time anyway. But it is really helpful to have a group like yours. We deeply appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.